Welcome, everyone. It's Reverend Dr. Tracy Cox. Welcome to another episode of Metaphysics and Spirituality. Today, we're going to focus on one of my favorite topics, and that is the spirituality of success. Because everybody wants success or should want success. It's a wonderful part of life. And today, I have my guest, Daniela Saioni. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she is a creative coach and entrepreneur, and she's got lots to say in this topic. And we're going to talk specifically today about success and never giving up on your dreams, because in both of our businesses, we see plenty of people that never thought that things would happen to them, and they eventually make them come true. So I'll let Daniela, tell us a little bit about herself, and then we'll start the show.
This is always the hardest part because I've had so many lives. I've had so many reincarnations of what I do, how I earn a living, and what I succeed in as well.
I know.
I think creative coach sums it up best. Because all my life I have had the calling to be a teacher, but most of my life I worked on film and television sets as a script supervisor, and that's taken me to some of the. It's taken me to 10 countries, literally. It's taken me alongside some of the top directors and actors in the business. It's been a really joyful profession. I've also been and am a screenwriter and a story editor. I was a stand-up comic for 8 years. I am a union performer. And most recently in 2020, I would say my last sort of incarnation was as an entrepreneur, something I never thought would be something I would chase, because I used to have a very negative view of money and sales. And I had to, it's something I've learned in every art form I've tackled. I'm starting to consider entrepreneurship art, because marketing and things like that are very, very creative endeavors.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I was in my 50s when I found entrepreneurship, and it was, sort of a forced thing in a way, because we were in the pandemic, and I had to figure out how to sustain myself in a way that brought me joy. And I really, really missed connection. And so through finding and connecting with my students by taking my courses online, I had an explosion of, just an abundance of students internationally come to me. So it just really, really changed everything for me. I don't know.
Sure. And that goes to the spiritual principle of no matter what challenges are thrown in your way, they're there for a reason. They're there for spiritual growth. They're there to make you branch out into other things, and also to show your flexibility, because that is a very important spiritual principle. Like, things don't always come in the package that we thought that they would. And as we embrace it, they unfold the way that the universe really wants them to unfold. So with you, I met you in some software training for Samcart, and I thought you were so positive with it. And just the fact that because of the pandemic, you had a job where you had to go out into the world, and that was over for now. And then to kind of flip the script and do this, so to speak, is fantastic. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting about what you do is I have a lot of clients, because I'm like a spiritual life coach and Reiki master teacher. So a lot of people come to me because they're struggling, they have dreams that aren't manifesting. They want to know if there's some spiritual tools that they can use, or perhaps it's just a mindset thing. Um, it's so important to keep those dreams alive and don't give up on your dreams, because I feel that your dreams are put into your brain by the universe, and if you believe in God, by God, and those things are sent because you do have the ability to make them happen. Now, you don't know if it's going to be at the age of 20, 40, 60, 80. So the interesting thing that I thought about your business is that a lot of your demographic is older than we would think, correct?
Yeah, I would say 45 to 70 is my main
Wow.
demographic for the writers. For script
Mhm.
supervisors working on set, it's more like 35 to 60. But yes.
Sure.
And I just want to, you mentioned mindset, and that was what I I didn't get that idea across before, but really the thing that stands in our way from doing anything, and I've learned this across disciplines, stand-up comedy, acting, writing, especially, like all these things, and in my case, it was entrepreneurship the most, is our mindset. We're the only ones stopping
Absolutely.
ourselves, but in the way that we frame things.
Yeah, definitely. So we were just talking about people that have come to things later in life, and somebody that's really popular right now is a writer, and his name is Taylor Sheridan, and he is the producer and writer and director of Yellowstone and all these massive hits. I think he's got about 10 different shows on Paramount right now, and he didn't even start writing until he was 40 years old. So a man that's 40 years old that starts writing, and all of a sudden now he's got a $500 million contract with Paramount to produce shows for the next, whatever it is, 10 years. And it's like, if he didn't hang on to that dream, he'd still be
Well,
a cowboy somewhere.
the thing about writing is age is an asset, experience and wisdom is an asset. I mean, you can be wise in your 20s, but more often than not, we find our ish. We find we know ourselves, and we have greater wisdom after the age of 40 in general. And that's why I think it's actually kind of better to start writing later in life.
Sure, it comes from a place of authenticity instead of thinking, imagining what it would be like if something happened. You've actually gone through it. And that's a huge difference. That's all the difference in the world. The other thing that I find interesting is that this is an intersection between something that I teach, which is writing as a spiritual practice, and actually writing to produce something to market. And I think that's fantastic because you can kill two birds with one stone. And I was just going over all the science and how healing actual writing is, even if you don't ever show it to anybody else. They've done scientific studies where they put people on the machines to judge everything, their vitals, and everything is better after they're done writing. Their blood pressure's down, their heart rate's better, their respiration is better. So there's something very healing that comes over people as they write. I don't know if you found that with your students.
Well, it even goes beyond that for me, because I very much believe, I'm a comedy writer and I teach comedy writing. I very much believe that comedy is our way to heal from trauma. So I get people to lean into their trauma if they're able to. Sometimes it's too fresh, but we all have different traumas that we've lived through.
Yes.
And most of the work that I do as a coach is tapping into those to sounds terrible, but to monetize them, to
Yeah.
find the thing,
There's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
to find the thing that resonates with audiences, because they may not have had the same kind of pain that you have, but they have had pain. And if you can write
Yes.
from an authentic place and even a comedic place from your pain, it's going to resonate with larger audiences and be more likely to be a unique kind of hit in the marketplace.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And now, this isn't saying that we are minimizing people's trauma in any way, shape, or
No,
form, not at all. This
no.
is a different stage of healing from trauma.
Yeah, you can't kinda
Yeah.
do it when you're fresh, but, as early as months, but probably years after you've gone something major, you start to gather lessons, and, the positive, you see the other side of it and know that you're gonna be okay, and then you can think back on that. That wound still lives in us, right? It's
Yes, it does.
So, if we can tap into it to help not only ourselves, but other people. Listen, that's the whole premise of stand-up comedy, right? Is healing through laughter. Because I learned this on stage, the funniest jokes are the most painful.
Sure. Yes.
So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, my question with that is, do you find that as you start coaching people with their writing, that there's like a healing that you see taking place with them as they face these things, make them funny, work through them? Like, how do you find that works? Like, from somebody that's green to where they've sold a script. Tell me
yes,
what that process is like.
It works on multiple levels. Usually when people first come to me, it's through, I do comedy premise creation challenges for film and TV. And my goal is that I can help you tap into your unique idea for a film or TV series in 5 days. And
Ooh,
that,
that's
listen,
great.
there's multiple ways that we have to heal ourselves, not only by talking about or addressing the trauma in some way, whether directly or indirectly, because we can use our wounds and not directly talk about our lives, but you can use those wounds and apply them to fictional characters. But also, the part of our healing is like getting it out on the page, getting it out of our brain and onto the page,
That's
getting
right.
stuff done. Because a lot of us, myself included, suffer from extreme procrastination, where it's really
Yeah.
just fear, right? So getting over that fear and actually creating something is an act of healing. And then seeing that
Yes.
develop into a product that you can then bring to market. And I've had people sell like their first scripts even from these challenges.
Amazing.
In the industry, we say options. So they sold it to a company that, and they're in development, and eventually, hopefully, they become shows. But for a first script, it's incredibly rare in our industry, as you probably know.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact that they're so that they're resonating, and listen, you can't sell what's not like formed. And there's a lot of writers who spend years going, yeah, I have an idea. And they put it in a drawer and they do, and they just don't finish it for so many reasons. It's partly sometimes because it is tied to our trauma, or we have this fear of, what if it gets rejected, or what if it gets accepted, then what do I do, right? But
Yeah, I've actually had clients that are worried that it gets accepted because they've got, and this is a really strange thing, but I do, because I'm a minister, I do a lot of weddings and funerals, like the real spice of life, right? The real heavy things. And one of the things that people seem to worry about is they've had an ex that they want to get rid of, they never want to see again, and they're actually worried that maybe that ex will pop up and go after them if they're successful. And I'm thinking, what a scary thing to have somebody feeling that way, right?
oh my
So
goodness.
there's so many layers. So once again, that's trauma, and that's trauma that needs to be worked through, right? Because we all have scary things in life that we need to face. But that's a very common one, is they're worried that exes will come out of the woodwork and make their life difficult. And I'm like, I've never even thought about that, right? Like, but it's a real fear.
Yes. I mean, oddly, my most of my trauma came from my marriage. I had a very sort of abusive marriage.
There you
Yeah,
go.
very, very shocking part of my life. But it was, the healing from that changed everything for me, because it took me years. Years. There was domestic violence involved. There
Oh,
was a lot of emotional abuse involved. There was a lot of financial loss involved. The
ugh.
more people, women and men, that I talk to, that, so many people have been through this. So we're never alone in this, in so many ways. But, that's actually how I first came to writing and comedy, like after the depth of that pain. So no,
Yeah,
I
so
was
there you go. There's another situation where it is a downside that leads to an upside because you're processing it in a healthy way. And in the ministry, they teach us that too, is that the easiest way to get people to drop their barriers is through humor. Make jokes, laugh at things. Don't be so serious. When people are serious and stern, that's the last thing anyone wants to do is share with them, right?
well, and you said processing, and that reminded me, I wanted to say that process really helps. So I've created like little processes to tackle procrastination, to get people to tap into their trauma in a relatively painless way. Although people do say that at first, when they do it at first, it's a really heavy experience. But
Yeah.
as things get lighter and lighter, as people share their work, hear the laughter, hear the feedback, and it's always in a positive, obviously constructive space. And as it gets shaped into something that is separate from their pain but similar, but rooted in it, the process helps us tackle our demons, really.
Yes, it does. And even if people took your training for not just you do for regular screenwriting too, right? Like for
Yeah,
drama and
40% of my
whatever it is.
writers don't write comedy, but I teach in a comedy lens. They all understand that. Like, comedy has a whole bunch of layers of additional skill sets. So when they come to me, they're still getting a screenwriting program, but they're also getting the comedy skills. Yeah.
Sure, because I don't know if you saw that Tina Fey has a new show on Netflix, The Four Seasons. Did you see that?
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm
It's
about
really
to
good.
interview with one of the directing team, so I need to watch it.
Oh, yeah, it's great. But what I noticed about it is that the layers, even though it is a comedy, it's about very serious things. There's serious situations going on, but it's all woven together in the way that life is, right? Because if you live your life through trying to make people laugh and trying to keep the vibe high, that's what it feels like. Even if you're at a funeral, you probably go out back and have a couple laughs with some friends. That doesn't stop, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? So it's kind of a great lens to put it through.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and yeah, that is and everyone will have sort of a um different art forms, but I feel like we can all access writing in some on some level.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it's very healthy, very healthy. Even if somebody even just keeps a journal and writes
Yes.
down just their thoughts, things that they don't ever want anybody to read and then rip them up, it's still scientifically proven to be very, very healthy for your body. So it's body, mind, and spirit. It's another way of doing it. People get into journaling. There's a reason for it. It actually really does work.
It
You know,
releases, yeah, otherwise we're carrying all that stuff around, all the ick.
that's right. That's right. So, what did you find with the success principle for you where you found that you were the lowest and you had to hang on to those dreams? Because this is what I'm finding with people right now. It seems like a lot of the information we're being fed through the media is very, very dour. Uh, Everything's terrible. Everything is negative. And I don't believe that. And I just think that's a way of getting people to look at the news, right? So I'm trying to spread positivity because I know that there's people every day doing very well and successful and having fantastic lives. And we have to keep our spirits and our minds uplifted into that energy so that we can make that happen too. It's a conscious effort. It's not like you just lie back and everything great happens to you at all, right? So, was there like a point where you felt almost gave up and then
Well, a couple of
overcame?
times in life for sure. Well, obviously after that trauma of the marriage and everything, that was I was literally a puddle, in my on my living room floor for 2 months, just crying
Of
it out.
course.
But after that, like, it does get better once you stop and go, hey. I mean, really, for me, I went to comedy writing school after that, and I wrote a script about it. It wasn't my best script, but once it was the script I had to write. It was about
Yep.
my divorce.
Hmm.
Um, I can't even remember what I called it. I'm blanking on what I called it, but I never really showed it to anyone beyond my professor. But beyond after that, all my writing got a lot stronger because I didn't have to focus on that anymore. I had to,
Sure.
yeah, I could
That's right.
harness it.
That's right. So it's that processing of it, of the trauma, so that we can leave it behind. It's not so
Yeah.
that we can look at it every day and go, "Oh, these horrible things happened to me." And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck.
And think about what's happening now in the film business. Okay, so right now I have about 700 film students in the world, like script supervisors who work on set, which is where we're losing a lot of, well, theoretically, we're losing a lot of the work. But I'm going through and interviewing some of my alumni, like sort of one by one, and I'm spending half an hour a day with a different student. And there's a lot of people who manage to thrive despite the strikes, despite
That's right.
um, yeah, and, like, a
Yeah,
lot of them, myself included, but, like, I feel like I have the key already, and I do try to impart that. Like, it's so interesting. I never, would have considered myself spiritual maybe 20 years ago, but I certainly do now, and, there's a reason that so many entrepreneurs teach manifestation. I teach manifestation to my script supervisors.
of
I teach
course. Yeah,
manifestation to my writers, like, beyond just the business students, because it is a way to keep yourself in this, like you said, a high frequency. Those on
that's
a
right.
high frequency just kept attracting more work to them. And those who kept saying, film business is over. We're doomed. They're not working.
Of course
So I
they
don't
aren't,
know.
because they're creating their own um, universe by speaking these words. And if the universe or God, whatever you like I teach Reiki because I can impart these things um, to people that are more secular. It's
Mhm.
still, we all know there's an energy that runs our body, the electricity that runs our body. They actually, I guess it was out in Calgary, the university out there has just a few days, like a couple weeks ago, they can see the energy of a body, and when you die, the way that it lifts out, that it's still there, and they've got a scan now that they can see it. So that's us, that's our spirit. I like to tell everybody that our spirit drives the car that is our body. And one day that car goes to the junkyard. You just, eventually it gets really run down for everybody. It doesn't matter who we're talking about. It's part of life. But that spirit doesn't cease to exist. That driver doesn't cease to exist because they got a new car. Or, like
Yeah.
it's really hard for people to understand, but it's like, it's the concept that the spirit is always intact in there. So it just opens it up to a lot of people to be a bit more easy on themselves, because maybe they've got a disability, maybe they can't speak, they have to use a computer to speak to people, but that spirit is still intact. It keeps people more open-minded about the way that humans are, right? That we can all make things happen no matter what the car's doing,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Oh, no, no. Yeah, exactly. I started to, how would I put it? I had sort of a negative relationship with religion because I grew up in a strict Catholic
Oh yeah.
home. And so
Yep.
I had trauma that I was healing from in relation to religion. But once I let all of that, just let it go and live in a place of gratitude and just forgiveness and all of that. Um, I can absolutely see the spiritual side. So yeah, I do say universe, but it is a greater energy, whatever it may be called. I respect everyone's.
Yeah, I expect
Yeah,
I respect it all. The Most
yeah,
High, the universe, whatever you
yeah,
want to call it, it's all good for me. But I know that it's out there and I can feel it every day. And
yeah.
that's the way that I work, like I do tune in no matter what I do and feel, okay, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? What's my gut instinct telling me? Because your gut instinct and your intuitions, those are the universe or your angels or God talking to you. And you probably, with that marriage, if you look back, you probably had that gut instinct that you shouldn't have done it.
Yes,
And
on my
did you?
wedding. Many, many times, and I ignored
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, don't you love those moments when you're like, the universe is talking to me? Like I can
Yes.
actually hear it talking to me. I don't know. I mean, I don't mean in the sense of voices in my head, but I kind of do. There's kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what it's there for. It's to warn you. So did you find that you kept getting, like, give an example of this, because
sure.
I love to talk about this with people, because they don't honor it and then they kick themselves for not honoring it. So what's your story with it?
I have many, but here's this what might sound like a very strange example because it was kind of strange for me.
Okay.
Before the pandemic, like a couple of months before, I kept getting these impulses to do things I'd never done. So, some examples being, oh, why don't you go live on Facebook and start talking to people? I mean,
Okay.
it's not that I love going on stage. I was a stand up comic in the past, but I had quit by then. I didn't have a business. I mean, I was teaching live in the classroom. Okay. But I never thought of that. I thought of that as my hobby because more than anything, I was a filmmaker and a screenwriter, right? I
Right.
worked on film sets. So I was like, "Oh, that's odd. Okay, I'm going to start." And they were terrible, those early lives. And I bought a ring, and I thought, "Oh, I better buy a ring light." And then
Okay.
about a month before the pandemic, oh, this Sam cart thing. Like it was so weird. I was like, I was supposed to find this, and I bought it thinking, oh, so Samcart, if for those who don't know, well, it's now a course hosting platform as well, but it used
Yeah,
to
isn't
be
that
just
great?
an express checkout for online businesses, and it had a lot of sales pages. I'm someone who doesn't have a website. I never have, but I have Samcart. So anyway, I saw their ad and I thought, this is weird. Like, this feels like I was supposed to find this, but I didn't know why. I had no idea why. I just bought it. And I thought, oh, after, because I was scheduled to go on a shoot in North Carolina, like in a couple of weeks. I'm like, oh, when I get back from the shoot later this summer, I'll start looking into this, but I'll buy it now because it was like on sale. So cut to cut to March 14th, when they said, oh, we got your work permit for the US, but you can't, like, I couldn't leave because they were pulling the plug on
That's right.
productions.
That's right. Yes, they
And
were.
I suddenly didn't have the money for my rent because I don't know if people understand how film workers work. I mean, I guess it applies to a lot of gig workers where we are at times living very check to check because the checks are so high and we do have to take breaks. So I was coming off of like a 6-month break of travel, and I was like, oh, great, but I have this huge contract coming up. I have
Sure.
no problem.
Yep.
No work, no money, rent is due in 3 weeks. And I was like, and after about a day of it being in the fetal position on the
Sure,
couch,
poor me, and then it's like, "Wait,
I
I
was like,
could do
oh,
something about this."
I bought that Sam Cart thing. I have a ring light. I started to figure it out. I've never done this stuff before. I didn't know how to use Zoom. All of this
Yeah,
came
I
together
know.
really quickly. But if I hadn't have done those things in advance, it was so weird, right?
Yep. Yeah, so your instincts, like I said, I really believe instinct and intuition is your guardian angel that's talking to you all the time going, "Okay, this is something's gonna happen here, so over here, little one." And, eventually, the light bulb goes on, you know, and that's beautiful. So when you started, did it take off quickly, or was it a
Yeah.
grind? Oh, it
Oh
took off
God, no.
quickly. Well, that's awesome.
It was the easiest thing I'd ever done. It was
That's
shocking to
amazing.
me because, like I said, I had a lot of mental blocks up around quote unquote sales because my father was a traveling salesman. Again, I had a not a great relationship with my father. And I always thought of him as Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman.
Yep.
Like, and, he was always telling me how he would have to lie to people to sell to them. And I just thought that was the most awful thing. He would
Yeah.
pretend to be,
And it's not true. That's not
no,
true.
no,
Like, we
no,
had
it's not.
yeah, before I became a minister, we, owned a General Motors my family owned a General Motors dealership, and I was the general manager, and it was like I rejected a lot of those stereotypes about car sales because you don't need to be like that to
Yeah.
have a successful business, and we did. We had a very successful business, and my dad was always known as, a great guy and an honest deal.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and it didn't hurt at all. So, yeah, I don't get where salesmen talk about that. It's like,
Oh, he's from the time when they had to knock on doors, and I can't even imagine knocking on someone's door and having them
no,
invite you in to sell them.
no, not anymore.
So certainly not anymore.
No, thanks.
But yeah, like for me, I mean, so within the first month, I had my first $10,000, which was exactly this.
Amazing. Okay, congratulations. Well, there you go. See, never give up on your dreams because it can just happen in a blink of an eye, just like that.
And when it's doing something you love, like I love teaching. It's
Of
one of
course.
the things I love. And it's one of the things that brings me peace, joy, fulfillment. And it's one of the ways I have been able to impact and change so many lives. And I didn't even realize to the extent of that's why I'm sort of going through this is my 30th anniversary of teaching. And I have been going through and starting to talk to my students, and I had no idea how I was impacting them. So
Right. So it all just came together in one beautiful package. And here you are. And
yeah,
that's been 5 years now.
5 years.
Yep.
Yes.
So
Yes.
have you seen steady growth through the years or
Well, it's funny. I've seen stability. Like I have the consistent ability to earn at least $10,000. There have been months where I've earned 20 and $30,000.
wow, that's great.
But I have not yet scaled. I have so many friends who are able to scale to 7 figures, which is this was another thing. I had to get over the idea that only like evil people make that much money, right? And I learned it
Oh,
by,
right,
oh my gosh.
because the church, the
Yeah,
love of
well,
money is the root of all evil and all
church,
that.
and even just my parents are Italian immigrants. I think a lot of immigrants have this great work ethic, but the work ethic is fueled on you got to work to get, like I
You
literally
gotta
worked
grind. Yeah.
myself out of poverty when I was a kid, and then I was like, okay, I got to work myself. But it's it's not that. The big thing I learned from entrepreneurship is you work less to make more money because you're focused on doing something that is in your zone of genius that can really help people. So you don't have to work harder, you work smarter, you work less, in many ways, and so that you need to work less to free up the time to think about what the next strategy is.
That's
No,
right.
so like my niche, my industry is the film business, and so a lot of businesses tanked and went under because of the tumult of these past 5 years, and I've been able to sustain, and sometimes grow. And so my next mission will be to scale, but like it's okay. Like I'm quite patient with it all because I can see myself. This is the thing, we have to see it to be it. And I got
I agree.
to meet other, I went to a Sam Cart mastermind in Florida in 2021, like Christmas of 2021.
Okay.
And that really changed me. That was like the thing that really made an impact. That was my first $30,000 month. That month I was not doing well. December is our best month for if you have any kind of anything to offer online, really, because people are in a renewing and sort of making plans for the year, and often they will
Sure.
take courses. And I had only made 3,000. It was the middle of the month. I went to and I thought I got to do something, and so I flew to Miami, to go to this mastermind, and I met all these creatives who were beautiful people, like very spiritual, very like they really were on a high frequency, and I was just
Absolutely.
became so enamored with them, and they were making 7 and 8 figures a year in their
Nice.
businesses, some of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So, speaking of which, you've got a mastermind coming up that you're going to be starting to do, correct?
wait, which one are we talking about? I do
I
so
think
much.
I think that you were saying that your coffee break MBA is turning into
Oh,
a
Oh,
mastermind, or
yes, yes. Okay, so I get so much from masterminds. So Coffee Break
yes.
MBA was the program that I created about 5 months into my entrepreneurial journey to teach people. I was like, I have to teach people that this is all possible, right? It's like I have to throw people a lifeline because this saved my life. You'll see that with comedy writing and with everything that I've ever taught. It's because I figured out a way to do it that's efficient and quick, and I just like, okay, now throw the lifeline, let other people do it, cut years
Sure.
off their life, and then make it an accessible price, right? That everything has always been about it being accessible. And so with Coffee Break, I was like, what if, because I had all kinds of people asking to buy me coffee, and of course I didn't have time for that. And then we were in the
Right.
pandemic. I'm like, what if you figuratively bought me one cup of coffee a week? That's the price of Coffee Break MBA. And the goal of that
Smart.
was to give people the skills to start online businesses. Now, what I found was that the level of engagement was wildly different. Some people just wanted to come to Coffee Break to talk and really not to create their businesses, which was, I wanted to welcome everybody, but I really, really, I'm reinventing Coffee Break. I just shut down, it's the old incarnation of it. After well, I guess it's been 5 years almost. I realized my specific zone of genius is teaching people how to create online courses. So if I make, so then I'm creating a new course about just creating an online course. And so I'm going to bring back Coffee Break as a mastermind. So I've shut it down
Sure.
temporarily because it was too generalized. There was such a broad range. I was trying to teach people everything. And I was like, why don't I just focus and then bring it back as a mastermind? Because I get so much out of masterminds, the collective
Yeah.
thinking, the
Yeah,
inspiration.
smart.
That'll
Yeah,
be
I love that. I
2026.
love that. It, because people have such different perspectives on things,
Mhm.
but the biggest thing about entrepreneurs is most of the successful ones that we meet are very positive people. They are
Yes.
not doom and gloomers. They're always looking for the bright side, and they're always looking that even when things are tough, there's ways to make money because you have to think outside of the box. So that's what we're all trying to do. And that's what I'm trying to do with this spirituality of success because I want to help people too. Everybody comes to me because they need some help in that area, one place or another. So all this great information really does help. And we're running out of time here. But I'd love to have you back on sometime. We'll talk about this because we could go on about this forever. So I will put all your contact information in the description for this video. But is there anything that you want want to say about never give up on your dreams here
Never
at the
give
end of
up. Oh,
this?
yes, yes. I have students in their 70s coming to me for the first time to write screenplays, and they're doing incredible work. I have one who's taking more than one who have taken their features to market and are actually, it's inspiring to me as someone who's in her late 50s to see that, okay, this can anything can manifest at any time in our lives. We have to be ready for it. So never giving up on your dream. And listen, also, your dreams can change. So
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have to be married to something that
yeah,
was your dream at the age of 20. That could change completely. I mean, for me, I'm a member of the clergy now, and I was in the car business for years, and so
your
there's a
dreams
time for everything, right?
and everything you've done is it kind of feels like it was all there for a reason, as I'm sure it all was
Absolutely,
there
yeah.
to inform the future you on the future you with maybe a
That's right.
different dream. There's a reason you went through everything you went through, and there's a reason you did all the different jobs you did, because it leads to where you are today. It's so beautiful to see over and over again in my students, and I have no doubt I'm going to change careers probably 2 more times or more.
Yeah, exactly. Keep flexible, and yeah, life is always something interesting and an adventure, and can always get better and better. So thanks very much, Daniela. That was amazing. We'll have to have you on again.
Would love
And
to.
yeah, and please hang around while I do the outro, and then we can chat a little bit more.
Okay.
But thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us.